Peter Martin, Alison McConnell and Tam McManus here with me. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button on our channel and join the football family. And if you download the app, you'll get all the breaking news at your fingertips. Thank you to so many of you who also download our podcast to listen to it at your leisure. If you don't catch the show live, you can always catch it on the YouTube channel as well at any time that suits you. Either it's on the telly, you can get it on your laptop, and of course your tablet as well. You can even watch it on your phone. So, fairly straightforward stuff, lots to talk about, and we'll start with just a sad bit of news. Sven-Göran Eriksson has sadly passed away at the age of 76. I think all of us knew that time was running out for the great manager, and I think he had said his farewells in a poignant message to everyone, which really was a fair reflection of Sven-Göran Eriksson as a person. I think a lot of people will miss him, and a lot of people across the football world have been paying their respects to him. And when you look at his career as a manager from the age of 27 onwards, I mean, in Italy especially, and of course in Sweden, he managed to win titles, European trophies, and I think he leaves behind a legacy which many people will be grateful for and look back on with great fondness.
Yeah, I think there's two layers to it. I think there was Sven the professional and Sven the man, and I think a real barometer of the effect that people have on others' lives is how they speak about the humanity that they exhibit. And I think lots of the stories that are being told are about the person, about Sven the person, how he managed people, how people still felt very warmly towards him that he'd managed, and I think that's a great success of anyone's life, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think everyone will pass on their condolences right across the football world to Sven's family and friends. We never like to talk and discuss, obviously, at great length, players and managers who pass away. It's just a great sadness, and the one thing we like to do when that happens is pay tribute to them, and I think everybody here certainly is fully aware of the value of Sven-Göran Eriksson to the football world. Now, lots of things to talk about as far as Scottish football is concerned. We'll have a wee look at the English Premier League as well. You can give us your thoughts and your point of view on football, any of the issues that's troubling you. Tam and Alison are primed as we go into the last week of the transfer window. So, Matt O'Reilly confirmed he's gone to Brighton.
Yeah, I think that was always going to happen, Peter. I think that it's been ongoing for the last couple of weeks. It was just a question of where he was going to go. I think that it's such a fantastic season last year. 23 years old, he's got real potential to kick on again and go for a bigger transfer. So I think Brighton's a great move for them. They've started the season tremendously well as well. 2 wins out of 2, and I think he'll fit into their system and how they play. Celtic get a massive fee. And it remains to be seen in the next 5-6 days if that money is going to be spent, because we keep saying every week, they'll sign a player, and they're still not signed anyone. I seen a clip of Peter Lawwell yesterday getting a bit of abuse outside St Mirren's pitch. So yeah, the pressure's on. It really is from the Celtic supporters. They're not going to have, losing arguably your best player for a record fee and not bringing anyone in. So it's a huge week. You've seen Brendan speaking about it as well. I think he's starting to get up, to say the least. So let's see what Celtic do in the next window up until this Old Firm game, because, as I said, the pressure is on big time from the supporters.
Yeah, absolutely. Were you able to get Peter in the car to safety as quickly as possible, Alison? It's well worth a dig, because Ali and I totally disagree on this whole thing.
They like their own narratives.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with that in mind, let's look at what Brendan Rodgers has to say, Ali, because over the last 4 or 5 weeks, he has... he's come out with various lines. I say over the last 4 or 5 weeks, over the last, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months, since he's come back second time around, he's had 2 or 3 wee pops that quickly he's been reined back in on. But here's his latest one in the final week of the transfer window. This is what Brendan had to say on the whole issue. We can't be happy to make our monies and build our pot because the bottom line is on the pitch. Having come back in and gone through 3 windows now, it's definitely something we have to put right as a football club. We shouldn't be going into this last week in the position we are in. So, there's the manager again highlighting what he's actually mentioned in 3 previous windows. I mean, I did say to Ali last weekend, he mentioned it when he got in there. He mentioned it when he wanted them in the January, and he's mentioned it again.
Yeah, and listen, it's very clear that he wants quality players in, you know, and he's just lost one of his best players. As the window, you know, vastly approaches closing, I think you can see him getting more and more tetchy in press conferences. He's sending a message out that he's been sending out, as you said, for a long time. We need quality in, we need quality players in. We don't want projects, we don't want guys at 19, 20, 21 for a couple of £1 million. We want real quality. And I mean, there's rumours that he'll walk away and all this stuff if he doesn't get the players. I don't believe that he will, but if he doesn't get 2 or 3, 4 quality players in between now and the end of the window, I think you're going to have a really unhappy manager at Celtic.
The other aspect of this, Ali, and I think I know you and I joke about it, but there is a genuine need to keep a sense of balance on this. Yes, they will get players, and I think Celtic will buy players, but again, it's the timing of it that's infuriating people. That's one issue. There are many layers to this that we could discuss ad nauseum, but it's the timing of it that's becoming a real annoyance for Celtic fans. And it's not a unique thing, it's a strategy.
I don't know if it's a strategy, but I certainly think there's frustration on the part of supporters and clearly on the part of the manager that business hasn't been done early. I would say I think the window as a whole has been sluggish this year. I don't think there's been a huge amount of movement. I think now that players are starting to depart, you'll see things accelerate a bit, but Celtic obviously need to strengthen. At the minute, they're a weaker squad than what they were last season.
Why do they need to wait on the Matt O'Reilly money?
I don't think they do need to wait on the Matt O'Reilly thing.
Neither do I.
They did. But what I think you see is a domino effect of players elsewhere, because transfers are a two-sided affair. It's not just about identifying a player and going and getting them. Sometimes players wish to wait. Clubs wish to wait until they've sourced a replacement for someone who's ongoing. It's not entirely a one-way street. I do appreciate. I think.
Did you think I was some sort of prophet then when I said he'll go, but he'll go in the last week?
What's that? Sorry.
Did you think
you were a prophet?
Did you think I was some sort of prophet, Ali? That I was able to go to sleep one night and think, no, Matt O'Reilly will go in the last week.
I think you're conflating two different things. You're conflating two different issues. However, you can sense the frustration from the manager. You've heard the frustration of the Celtic players support the whole summer, all this money in the bank, and are you going to hold up a balance sheet at the end of the season, etc, etc, etc. We have heard it, and I think the board are under pressure. I do think they have to come out now with a couple of big signings, and they're all the more under pressure because of the remarks that were made after the game yesterday, because quite clearly you have a manager who is saying, this is what I want, this is what I expect to get, and you've now got 5 days to go and get it. Yeah,
which is not great. Listen, the other big conundrum here, Tam, which I think a lot of people, and I don't really care about the back end of who's got certain positions. The board, as a collective, works to a strategy. They absolutely work to that strategy. And if I'm going to be brutal about it, that strategy is one of the most successful. This is not so much brutal, balanced in the sake that they are one of the best run clubs in the UK. So that's where I think, you know, Peter Lawwell and the rest of that board deserve credit, because they have a principle, they have a strategy, and they look at it and say, that's the way we're going to operate. Here are the parameters. So they go about their business that way. If you look at it, they've got 72 million in the bank, the season ticket sales, there's a 10,000 waiting list and then some. You've sold merchandise, you've got sponsorship deals, you've got player sales, you've got Champions League money, which could net something like £60 million. Now, all of that in the conundrum, you know, is they're cash rich. So they're a brilliantly run club. But if there's any criticism of the board, and I firmly believe Peter Lawwell is the kingpin, you do not have somebody who's so good at his job and so good at negotiating deals for Celtic. He doesn't take a back seat and suddenly allow Michael Nicholson in there. He's too strong a character for that. I believe he calls the shots. All Peter has to do with that board now is give the manager what he wants. And you know, it'll be, because the biggest problem I think for Celtic is the manager's going to be judged in September, and it won't be nice if they're getting leathered again.
No, and Ali made a point earlier that it's now a weaker squad than it was last season. Incredibly, when you look at the Celtic squad, how can that be possible going into the last week of the window that Celtic squad's now weaker than it was last season? I mean, with the money you've just mentioned there, and all that things are great, Peter, but supporters don't care about that. Supporters want to see them making an impression in the Champions League. Domestically, Celtic, in my opinion, that squad's good enough to dominate again, probably win a treble. But in the Champions League, they're sick of getting scudded every game. They're paying £50, £60, £70 for a ticket to go and watch Celtic getting beat comfortably. So that
and then some.
And the rest of the packages that Celtic are selling. So the Celtic supporters are not going to have it again. They've put up with the last couple of seasons because Celtic have been reasonably successful in domestically. But in the Champions League, Celtic are making no impression whatsoever. They cannot go into the Champions League group stages with this squad because they'll struggle to win a game, Peter. So 5-6 days to get 3 or 4 quality players in. I hope they do get them in, but if they don't get them in, I think they're going to have a really set of unhappy supporters and a really unhappy manager. So it's up to the board to go and give him what he wants, you're right.
Yeah, I don't think, Ali, there's any... I don't like people being abusive to, when the board members, Peter Lawwell, goes out and somebody gives them absolute pelters outside. I do think they have to possibly look and listen to the manager's words and say, listen, you need to change the strategy, you need to spend it. I think the biggest thing I would like to see is a change in strategy from the board is just quite simply to look and say, okay, we like to have players that we can sell on, but I think it may be a good idea to say, let's see if we can give the manager a wee bit more experience that could maybe help the younger players in the team and then get a chance to get a foothold of some sort of credibility in European football. I don't believe, nobody, and believe me, Ali, I speak to thousands upon thousands of people week in, week out, all want to inflict their opinion on you. I do not believe any Celtic fan that I've spoken to thinks Celtic can go and win the Champions League. They don't think they can get to the quarterfinals. They don't think they can get to the semi-finals. They just want to be able to get 2 or 3 good wins, take a few scalps along the way, maybe get a knockout game and a wee bit of luck along the way. That's all they want, Ali. They don't want 10 wins for the future. They want, yes, by all means, buy into Peter and Dermot and the board's plan. By all means, buy into it because it's a success. But go and get 2 or 3 that the manager wants who are experienced to enhance that squad and give them a wee chance of maybe bloodying someone in a game.
Yeah, I think that's clearly what Brendan is asking for. I don't think there is any ambiguity about the comments that have been made across the course of this month, including going back a few weeks ago when he was saying, I'm not sending messages to the board and all the rest. So I think he's been very clear. I think he's put it all out. This is what I expect to get and this is what I want in the window. I think, in a realistic sense, I think what you have at Celtic are two elements where you're going to bring in that kind of quality. You're going to get players at the very beginning of their career keen to make a name for themselves, like a Matt O'Reilly or a Moussa Dembele, who come young, with the club having a big sell-on fee and banking the money. You see with Matt O'Reilly, Celtic paid MK Dons £1.5 million, they've just banked in excess of £25 million. You see that as an ideal example, or you get players at the other end of the spectrum, a Joe Hart, a Kasper Schmeichel, players who have made their name, coming into the twilight of their careers and thinking, okay, Celtic's now a plausible option where it might not have been a decade earlier or at a particular point in their career. I think that's probably your most likely source of going and finding and bringing in the kind of experience that you speak of and the kind of quality that you want that might then go and make an impact at Champions League level. I think everyone can see. I thought Celtic, you saw shoots of progression last year across the Champions League campaign. I think there were grounds for optimism in particular games. I think there was a naivety about Celtic and Celtic performances, a lack of discipline at times too. But I think it's clear that this squad has 2 things. One, it has a capability to lord it over everyone domestically this season, and it's not good enough for Champions League football. It's not a squad that's going to make a dent in it. So the challenge now is to find a compromise somewhere that suits everyone, and I think that's a very, very difficult ask. I think you have seen it before. We saw Brendan frustrated before when it came to transfer windows and not getting players in that he wanted to get in, and I think the next 5 days is hugely interesting for Celtic, and I do think the time to judge it is this time next week. When the window closes, I think is your time to judge the short term. In the long term, I would say that Celtic could do with a much more modern transfer system. The recruitment side of the club, I think, could do with being overhauled entirely.
Yes, I think it could also do with a wee bit of humility. That's what I think. I think there is a need to suddenly take a wee step back as a board and say, we all operate as business people, accountants, bank managers, you name it. It's a well-oiled machine. But I think there needs to be a wee bit of humility, which I don't see in that building, I have to tell you, at all. And I think they just need to take a wee step back, have a listen to the fans, have a listen to the manager and say, we're good at our jobs, but let's try and shift the pattern a wee bit here and go and get maybe 2 or 3 players of experience. A Kasper Schmeichel is nice because it's a goalkeeper. A Joe Hart, it's been a great signing, but go and look for a wee bit of experience, something that the manager's looking for, a wee bit of quality, without breaking the bank. I don't think anybody has ever said, get the 10 or the 20 million out. They just haven't said it, Tam. I don't know a Celtic fan worth his salt or a brain in his head who said, we want £20 million player. They haven't. They've just said, give us something to look at that's 5, 6, maybe 7 million, maybe 28, 29 years of age, maybe somebody at 33 who's coming to the end of his career but can sit there with runners all about him and give them that wee bit. That's all they're asking for, Tam. And that requires some of that board, including Peter, who's a very strong-willed, forthright man, to take a wee step back and say, OK, we're going to listen to the manager, we're going to try. Because if they don't, and as you say, I don't think the proof's in the pudding this week. It's not. They will sign players. But if they get scudded in Europe in September, the fans will not be happy.
No, you're right, Peter. It's going to take Celtic to maybe push the boat out a little bit more than they usually do. I don't think they're ever going to break the wage structure at the club. The wage structure is the wage structure. I don't think they're going to break that. But even somebody on a loan deal at the end of the season, somebody playing the English Premier League that's not playing every week, get them up and pay half their wages or whatever till the summer. Somebody that's going to give you a little bit of stardust in Europe. The Celtic supporters, they need to see players in. And you're right. I think that Brendan Rodgers, if he's not got 3 or 4 quality players in by this time next week, is going to be really, really unhappy. They're going to get into the Champions League. He's going to go in with possibly a weaker squad than they did last season. With the money they've got in the bank, it's totally unacceptable for the Celtic supporters who shell out good money every week to go and follow the team, whether that's here in Europe or pay their season ticket money, buy merchandise. They want to see quality players, and they're not interested in having £100 million in the bank. They want to see a competitive team on the pitch in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people pay a lot of money. I think they're entitled to have a voice and maybe along the way have the ability to get that communication to say, look, the manager's come out and said it. Surely you guys need to actually maybe act on it, because there's no doubt about it. I mean, Alison, you watched the game against St Mirren, they just trounced them. At one point it was 80% possession to Celtic.
And they looked as though they had barely broken sweat. You think they had gears to go through in that game. You think there are levels that they can go up. I do think that domestically, I've not seen any evidence so far in the opening weeks of the season that anyone will lay a glove on Celtic. I think they look head and shoulders above what else is on offer. I may be wrong. Maybe over the course of the campaign we'll of course to rethink that. But I think the big question mark is Champions League. What do they need to try and supplement the squad? And I think there is obviously a balance to be had there. I think they want to bring in quality, but do it in a way that sustains the model that's there. They won't change the business model at all, regardless of what the manager's saying or is pressing for. I think you know how Celtic operate, you know the field that they're operating in.
If they don't change Ali, and the inevitable happens where they get battered in Europe this year, I think a number of them will make their voices heard. I don't like to see, I don't like to see people being abused or anything like that. But I think somewhere along the line, somebody has to listen to it. I was wondering why they're stockpiling cash. I was actually wondering, what is the benefit? There's no benefit to having 200 million in the bank unless you're selling the club and you want to make it look really meaty and attractive.
I think that you'll find that there's probably chaos just now.
What?
Behind the scenes is Celtic trying to bring players in. I think the idea that they're maybe sleepwalking through it, or that they're sitting sitting on their hands is wrong. I think there's probably a panic about trying to bring in the players that fit the mould and fit what they're trying to do, which
that suggests a panic.
Try and get a more streamlined, modern recruitment system. That's why I think that's necessary.
But that suggests a panic that's unusual for them. This is not a unique situation the last week, Ali. It didn't take me some kind of, HND course to work out exactly what's going to happen.
Why did Danish Postecoglou got his players in early?
Well, he didn't get all of them in early.
A lot of them in.
But he got a lot of them in. And he got a lot of them in
because never seems to get in early. He seems to always seems to be the last week of the window.
Brought in early too, though, were coming from a market that he knew particularly well. If you look at players who came in, but even still, as I pointed out to you last week, there were big players who came in the last 48 hours of the window. Jota, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Giacomakis, all came in the last 48 hours of the window. Kyogo came in at the day before the opening game at Hearts. He came off the plane and basically came off the bench and played in that defeat at Tynecastle.
Hugh Scott, who is been a regular, Hugh, I think you might have been with us since the very start. Hugh's a Rangers fan, always talks a lot of sense. He says, Peter, it's the usual dilemma. No need to spend big to win domestically, but can they spend enough to make a difference in the Champions League? Clearly, they'd rather keep the money, it seems. So many. Errol thinks that the board will need to show some ambition to get to the next level, and he thinks they're working on it. Wait and see. Well, Errol, I have no problems with everybody's opinion on this. Looking at it domestically, they just look as if they're in cruise control. But, as ever, as I say in this programme and try and keep a balance, August to December, Celtic are viewed very critically because of Europe. January to May, it's just a procession. If you look at, you can go back to 2000, it's a procession towards dominance in Scottish football because they've got so much money, and Rangers are finding it very, very difficult without investment coming in on a large scale. Rangers are finding it very difficult to lay a glove on them. So it's an interesting one. It's a topic that could go on and on and on. Honestly, you could dedicate an entire programme to this situation, but I hope we've offered some balance on it, because quite simply, it's not anyone on this programme, anyone on the radio programmes, or anyone on television who's dictating the anger. It's Celtic fans. It's a manager who's come out on more than a few occasions and shown his displeasure, regardless of whether he gets reined in or his knuckles rapped a week later. We can only deal with what we are hearing and what we see. We wait to see what type of player Celtic will bring in, whether it remains a Barcelona left back at 20 years of age, or whether there's going to be any quality in there. As far as the game against St Mirren, absolutely cruised it, won it by 3-0. St Mirren just weren't at the races, and there was a few things that irked Stephen Robinson, the Saints boss.
And he gets booked early on. Potentially could have been a penalty after that, so you have to make decisions. And we put Alex in there to protect the middle of the pitch, but we didn't really do that, to be honest. That didn't work, and we had to take him off to protect him from a send him off. Second half was slightly better, but it was probably more that they probably took the foot off the gas rather than us really being significantly different. So look, we need to reset. It's been a tough period of games, yes, but that's not an excuse for us today. We just didn't show the best version of ourselves, and as I say, they've done the free stuff in football, which won't get appreciated amongst the quality, but good teams do the simple things really, really well, and we didn't do them well enough.
They didn't really. I mean, I think he was even questioning why he would put Gogic in the middle of the park. I like Alex Gogic, but he's just Alex Gogic yellow.
Yeah, I think he's better in the back three. I've seen him at Hibs for a couple of seasons playing in the middle of the park. I think he's better in the middle of the back three. I think he reads the game well. He can get across and cover centre backs and cover space. think middle of the park he's not as effective. He gets booked after about 5 minutes, and then he's thinking, you need to take him off before he gets sent off. Celtic, again, just totally dominant. Another great goal from Callum McGregor. Seems to have, since he retired from international football, he's hit form.
Is he worth a tenner on 20 goals?
Aye,
I've never seen a guy hit that many.
I can't remember him scoring many goals, and he scored 2 in the first 3 games. So, fair play to him. He's getting into the areas to go and have a pop, and he strikes a nice ball anyway. He strikes a good ball, and he stuck that in the bottom corner. Great goals for the second goal as well. With Hatate, nice little knockdown, and took it well with his left foot. And then second half, it was just, Celtic were cruising. They got the third goal late on, but St Mirren were disappointed with their performance. They usually give Celtic a game, particularly at home. Celtic Rangers, they do give teams a game at home, and they didn't. They weren't at the races at all. I think they'll be looking to now get a sustained period. Stephen Robinson, where they're out of Europe now, they can start looking to pick up points, because you look at Kilmarnock, you look at St Mirren, both down near the bottom of the league, Hearts and Hibs. So it's been slow starts for 3 clubs were in the top 6 last season.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks to so many of you who are sending messages. Brian says, Peter, you're just anti-Celtic. Brian, we read out, people who are negative towards us. I don't mind. All I would say to you is try and listen in context to who's saying it, Brian. I don't think Brendan Rodgers is anti-Celtic. He's making the comments, and we are only commenting on what we are seeing in front of us here. A lot of Celtic fans not happy with the policy, but we wait to see if the manager who made these statements is going to get what he's looking for. Only time will tell. And I also like Stuart Derrick, who says, welcome to the Celtic Show. Well, that was the game we started to talk about, Stuart. Now we're going to talk about Rangers. 6-0. 6-0 to Rangers. If Celtic cruised it against St Mirren, Ross County, they could have brought on all the fans that were there at Hampden for them as well, and they'd still have lost.
Yeah, I think it was very comfortable from Rangers, and I think a performance that will do them a bit of good ahead of this weekend's first derby of the season when they go to Celtic Park on Sunday. I think they'll be relieved to be going there in the back of not just a win, but a comprehensive win, an emphatic win that maybe just gives a bit of confidence ahead of that first game on Sunday.
Well, here's a. I mean, I don't know. I would hope Cyril Dessers has no social media, because this boy, for me, his first goal. I mean, the ball from Lawrence was an absolute peach anyway, but his first goal, he scores goals. You just can't seem to win everybody over. And by the way, have a listen to this. This is what Philippe Clement said about Dessers.
We talk with the board about if their bid comes for a player, if we can let him go or not. We can only let players go if for that amount you can find better, or you can find 2, for example, one the same position and one another position. Otherwise, you work backwards. That's not the idea. Also, so clearly. For him, there hasn't been a bit that was enough to let him go. And he's also somebody who loves to stay. He loves to play for Rangers. He loves the shirt, and he wants to die for the shirt.
Well, I have to tell you, every time he's in an interview, he's always got a smile on his face, that boy. But he's one of those guys that one minute they like him, the next minute they don't like him.
Yeah, he's unorthodox the way he plays. I don't think he's a particularly great footballer in terms of, touch and linking the play, but he's a goal scorer. His first finish was tremendous. I don't think he's an issue at Rangers. I think without him, they'd be in real bother. I think he's a goal scorer. One thing I like about him, he's very, very strong mentality. You've got to have that to play for Celtic, to play for Rangers. You've got to have a real strong mentality. No matter if he misses a chance, 2 chances, 3 chances, he's always in there, Peter. Doesn't hide, and which I really, really like about him. And 2 great goals again at the weekend. I think he's going to score 20 goals in a canter. I think me and you are toiling against Ruffy.
And me.
Yeah,
and Alisson.
Did we say he wouldn't score 20?
Yeah, we said he wouldn't, and I think if he stays fit and stays at Rangers, I think he'll get 20 no problem, because...
James has just said here on our feed, he thinks he'll get 30.
Yeah, I think, he's, as I said, he's always in there, Peter. He's a good finisher.
Yeah.
When he gets in there, there's parts of the game you think... have a poor touch, you run the ball out the park, he'll sky on over the bar and you'll think, and then 2 minutes later he'll take a touch and put in the top corner. So he's that type of player. But I thought Rangers were superb. I thought Ross County were poor, but I think you've got to give Rangers credit. To win 6-0 at home is a huge result. You've got Danilo coming off the bench, getting a goal, which will give him the world of good. I think you've got Lawrence, who played well, scored a goal. He's been getting a bit of stick for the Rangers fans as well. Matondo's another one. Rangers supporters were no entirely happy with. So I think getting 6 goals, getting a clean sheet, takes them into the Lions' Den on Sunday in good fettle.
Well, with that in mind though, Ali, if you're talking about what the board need to do at Celtic to satisfy the manager, it's a totally different set of circumstances, I think, for Philippe Clement on the basis that he knows he might have to try and get a few off. I mean, if he could get Todd Cantwell out that door, get his wages off, and then maybe a few others, he might have some wriggle room for someone to bring in before the window closes.
He can't bring in anyone in until he sells. He's been fairly open about that he needs to get players who are on substantial salaries out the club and bring in players and reduce the wage bill. Overall, I think it's been unambiguous. It's been his commentary across the last couple of weeks, and I think that can be difficult. You need a buyer. You can't just show someone the door when they're contracted. You need a willing buyer to come in and take them off your hands. I think.
Who are the real sellable assets?
I think Cantwell is one of them, and I think for me, I would have played him. I know that there's a lot going on and there's been question marks over his involvement. I think it would have made sense to let him play.
Yeah.
To play him and have him in the shop window and try and encourage people to come in. At least then he's at a level of fitness. The longer the window goes on, the harder it is to offload a player who's completely out of the picture.
I don't think he offered anything, Tom. I was never impressed with him.
I thought he started well, Peter, and then I thought he started well at Rangers. Yep, I thought when he first came in, I thought he looked a quality player. I think he was going to improve Rangers. But as I said in the show last week, a lot of stuff off the pitch, getting involved with spats with pundits and posting cryptic messages on Instagram when you're losing games and you're not playing, and Rangers fans not interested in that. Just go in the park and play well and do well.
Rangers fans were fed up with that.
They're fed up with
even last week, you could see there was a message, I think, on Instagram posted that's a bit cryptic. I think he needed a more senior figure at the club to say, knock all that in the head, just stay off it, or if you're desperate to be on it with your own contemporaries and friends, go on under an alias that nobody knows. But keep your nose clean and just focus on your football, and whatever happens, just keep it.
Haksabanovic at Celtic done it and was out the door.
Yeah.
I think I read something about Lewis Palmer putting something on Instagram as well this morning.
If I was the Rangers,
you're not playing, just get your head down and knuckle down in training and try and get back in the team. Fans are not interested in that stuff, Peter.
If I was the Rangers captain, I'd say to him, listen, how about going out in the park and doing it?
Yeah.
Look at the boys, 21.
On the pitch.
Look at the 21-year-old. Connor Barron is a star man for them.
He's made a difference.
He's in the back line dictating to older players, give me the ball, I want the ball, I'm not going to hide, I'm going to try and play the ball forward. That boy's been magnificent. His attitude, even if he doesn't have the ball, he grafts. So, I mean, take a leaf out of his book. And he's an experienced player, Cantwell.
No, I understand. I just mean in terms of trying to get rid of players, I think it becomes very hard when they're completely out of the picture. I think it's hard to encourage people to come in and take them. One, whoever comes in from now is thinking, how long is it going to take you to get match fit? Where are you in terms of your physicality, being up to speed to go straight in? I think it would have made sense to keep him involved while you're trying to offload him.
Well, Rangers get rid of Ben Davis on loan. That's a big chunk. I think he'd have run good money because remember there was some big clubs obviously interested in him. I think he'd be on a fairly whoppery wage, and you've got Yanis Hadji there and you've got Cantwell. I think that goes right down to the last couple of days of the window, Peter. I've been in that situation myself. You're out the picture at a club. The closer that comes to the window, the closer they either get a payout, they'll get offered something to go, or the player themselves will be thinking, do I want to sit and play in the B team for another 6 months?
Yeah.
There's something available there. I'll just go and take it, and I'll get myself back playing again.
It's a fresh start. I can move on. And
as that window approaches, I think you start to see players and clubs getting a wee bit itchier to go and play football or to get rid of them off the books.
An awful lot of money to be paying someone to basically sit and languish in the B team.
Yeah, and you'll never get anybody better, Ali, than Tam, who knows what it's like to be able to be moved on in the window. Did you find, Tam, did you find that the money you eventually got from being moved on, did that force you into always trying to stay fit so you could wear all the gear you're wearing? apart from the freebies that you get from Mark Corcoran.
The worst one for me, Peter, was when I was at Dundee and under Alec Ray and Davy Farrell, and I was at the picture and I was training with the youth team, and I had a year in my contract left, and as that window approached, the amount they were going to pay me off kept going up and up because they didn't want me there for another 6 months, paying me a full wage.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen with these players as well, Peter. It's either going to come to you ahead a day or two before they go, right, that's what I want, right, just give them and get rid of them. And that's what could possibly happen with Hadji and Cantwell.
Yeah.
No, the longer that goes on, the harder it is to bring anyone in because they want clauses. So,
and Rangers won't be bringing anybody else in until they two are out the door, I don't think.
Yeah. Listen, it all boils down to this. You know, we can talk ad nauseum about what Celtic have to do, the type of player they're going to bring in. Rangers ducking and diving, trying to get players out, maybe to bring in one or two as well. But suddenly, regardless of what you're saying, and I throw this out to everyone here, and we've been very complimentary about Connor Barron, and then Paul says Barron will be judged on Sunday, Peter. I don't know about you, Paul, but you know, if you think you're a half-decent midfielder, I always think it always helps, Tam, if you've got three other half-decent midfielders alongside you to take the battle.
You've seen how good McGregor's been the start of the season because Hattati's back.
This is the thing about it.
Hattati can get about the pitch, and he didn't have him last season.
Yeah, and that's the problem for Connor Barron. He's hoping that he's in the midfield. He'll have people who are up for the fight, can do the high press, can put the yards in that he's doing to alter what will be a fantastic game on Sunday. What do you think about it? We'll continue our build-up to that game on Sunday all through this week, various interviews right across the board. You can give us your view on it as well, because it's Celtic versus Rangers. It's at Celtic Park, so it could be that first advantage to Celtic on their home ground. They are the champions. They've got a 2-point advantage already.
yeah, I think you would find it hard to see beyond Celtic if you just look at the evidence of the opening few weeks of the season. I think Celtic looked like the stronger team. I think when you add in home advantage and you look at the circus that we have of home fans and away fans, and it's 60,000 Celtic fans, I'm just not sure that I can see any evidence there of Rangers going and getting a result.
Yeah, I think until Rangers can prove that they can beat Celtic in a big game, I think Celtic will continue to dominate Scottish football. I think, you know, under Steven Gerrard, Rangers started to beat Celtic again, and at Parkhead. And that's not happened in a long time. I think that would strike a real psychological blow if Rangers can go to even get a draw at Celtic Park, avoid defeat, then the confidence starts to build amongst the supporters that, you know, they've got a team that can put a challenge out of Celtic, go and win comfortably again on Sunday. Then it's just going to be much of the same. It's going to be a 5-point gap after 4 games, and you're thinking to yourself, Celtic could go and win the league, you know, double figures again.
Okay, give us your view on that. What about the rest of the games? A lot of really tasty games to talk about coming up after the headlines.
Welcome to your Daily News Headlines, brought to you by Arnold Clark. I'm Patrick, and here's your top stories on the 26th of August. Some big transfer news coming out of Celtic this morning, and that is that the club has submitted a £6.5 million bid for Belgian winner Arne Engels. They've also got loanee Alex Valle, a left-back, currently undergoing a medical from Barcelona. In other news, well, Aberdeen continue their fine start to their Premiership campaign under Jimmy Thielen with a 2-0 victory over Kilmarnock at the weekend. They'll be looking to go unbeaten up until the international break, and Jimmy Thielen knows just how hard that will be.
Oh, it will be really good, but it's really difficult. So you can't look behind you, you have to look in front, and now we have to prepare, and we'll be really prepared for this game.
And for Rangers, it was a 6-0 victory over Ross County at the weekend, but Philippe Clement says he is desperate for a few new additions into his squad before the transfer window closes.
I expect a busy week, but more busy in incoming and a few outgoing, but outgoing not for players who are in the squad today.
And some sad news this morning, and that is that Sven-Göran Eriksson has died at the age of 76. All our thoughts here at PLZ Soccer are with his family. That's all of your headlines, brought to you by Arnold Clark.
Yeah, and off the back of that, of course, the confirmation that Matt O'Reilly has joined Brighton. The deal finally gone through. It was almost like a soap opera. It was just, has he gone yet? Every day he's finally gone. And now the onus is on both managers, as you've heard, to get those signings in ahead of the big one on Sunday. How do you think it's going to go? the other games, some belters. Aberdeen, I mean, it must be great being an Aberdeen fan at the moment, you know, in that city where there's only one team and everybody's, you know, everybody is absolutely delighted with what Jimmy Tillene is doing.
Yeah, I think that he's came in and he's hit the ground running. I think the League Cup campaign, Peter, they were pretty impressive as well. I think the fixtures, there's no doubt about it, the fixtures have been kind. You know, they've played a couple of teams that have been in European football at home. But you've still got to go and win the games. They've lost Mijovski, they've banked a tremendous amount of money. They've got Kevin Nisbet in on loan, which could be a really good signing for them. You know, Kevin, as we know at Hibs, was excellent. He scored goals at this level. So I think everything in the Gardens Rosy at Aberdeen, we've spoke about, they've got harder games to come. They've got a really tough October. But if they can go into the international break, you know, near the top of the league, you know, you can go and you can go and try and get some more players in. And I just think that Aberdeen this season, you know, will be up there challenging for third place. I think you look at the Hearts and Hibs, both struggling early doors. Aberdeen already have an 8-point gap over both of them. So I think if you're an Aberdeen supporter, you're right. Jimmy Tillene, you know, you're right behind him, the way the team's playing at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, that signing of Kevin Nisbet has gone down well with the fans and the manager.
Sure, and that's no problem. It's good with good characters and how we compete, but also whatever player, you need to find a rhythm with the team, and he's trained one training so far, but I think you're going to learn quick. He's a clever player, so I'm not too worried about that. It's going to be fine. Yeah.
Well, what a signing that is, Ali.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a really good signing for Aberdeen. It's quite seamless. You've got one out and one in. I think he might take a wee while to get up to speed. He's not been playing regularly. I think you maybe saw you need some games just to catch up a bit. But I think we know what he brings. You know his qualities. I think he'll be a good signing for Aberdeen. Yeah,
what about Gay? He took his goals well, didn't he? 2 headers. Kelly, Kelly sluggish from the European one?
Yeah, they have. I think they've got a point yet, have they, Peter, at the bottom of the league? It's always difficult, I think, when you look at the teams at the bottom of the league. 2 of them have been involved in European football. Hearts are going to be involved in group stage football shortly as well. So I think Derek will be more disappointed that they lost 2 goals for set pieces. You know, I think that Kilmarnock and Derek McInnes teams are always strong at set pieces. Aberdeen didn't cut them open. You know, 2 crosses into the box, 2 goals. So obviously losing a man as well. So listen, I think that Kilmarnock have obviously got a huge game coming up against Copenhagen with a massive amount of money at stake. I don't really see them getting through that. But once Kilmarnock can get out of Europe, I think that's going to happen fairly soon. Then they can concentrate and get up the table, because it's been a tough start for them.
Yeah. Oh well. Talk about putting a whole city or a whole town on a downer. He's just wiped them out of Europe, and I didn't even get a chance to ask him about it, Ali.
I think it'll be very, very difficult for Kilmarnock on Thursday night. I think you would like to see the same kind of performance that they produced over there in Denmark in the first leg. I think that second goal is just a killer. I think if they'd kept it to 1-0, you give yourself a fighting chance. But I think 2-0 is really, really hard to see them get over it and get it beyond it. However, were they to get an early goal and they've got the back in a Rugby Park, you just never know. But I do think it's a significant ask to overturn a 2-0 deficit, and not just overturn a 2-0 deficit, but against a team who are very seasoned in European football.
Yeah, by the way, great credit to Aberdeen, 3 games, 3 wins, and the start to the season as well, which has really got everybody purring up there. But, you know, as everybody mentioned, and Tam mentioned it last week, there's a few tasty games to come, and then we'll get the measure of Jimmy Tillene's side. But I think they deserve tremendous credit, no doubt. So many Aberdeen fans absolutely delighted with their start. In contrast to that, I mean, I cannot believe what I'm watching with Hearts. I mean, they were just absolutely dismantled by Motherwell.
Yeah, they were. Again, you're talking about teams that are struggling. You know, Hearts, I don't think anyone's seen this coming. I thought they'd signed some really quality players in the summer. I think their squad's deep in terms of quality players in different positions. They kept Shankland. You know, a dreadful start to the season. You know, obviously a decent result the first game against Rangers, but, you know, 2 heavy defeats away from home, losing the last minute goal against Pilsen over there. They've got a big job on at home to overturn that, but just miles off it, Peter, defensively. 2 set pieces again, two centre halves, you know, scoring the goals, 2 headers. You know, Hearts not defending set pieces properly. Lawrence Shankland's started slowly as well, and Stephen Naismith, incredibly, after being mentioned for Man of the Year last year, now under fire from a large section of the Hearts supporters.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's not shirking away from what's happening at Hearts.
I think the goals that we've conceded are individual mistakes. It's not. If you look at some of the performances against Falkirk, we start the game well with 4 good chances. Europe the other night, we performed really well. And then even today, at spells, I felt we got into good positions that then we expect. We need to either make the goal and make a save, or score a goal, or ask them to defend, and ultimately that's not what we're doing. So I think it's clinical areas of the pitch that are going to define games, and that's where we're short at the moment.
Strangely enough, it's balls into the box, just can't defend them.
Yeah, I think it's been a desperately poor start, but I just wonder sometimes that the opening weeks of a season can set a tone. You've just spoken there about Aberdeen and how they might not have played anyone of note or anyone who will be challenging up in top 6, but what you would have to say is you bank your confidence very early on. You bank a bit of distance between yourselves. The distance between Aberdeen and Hearts could be significant. The contrast is true for Hearts. When you have a difficult start, I think it can be quite tough to recover, just to find that morale, to get over the confidence that gets knocked out of the squad. I think when you start to lose games and you start to see small things not come off, you start to see like just moments in games that can turn them, go against you rather than go for you. Still a couple of days of the window left. If someone were to come in for a big offer, or any kind of offer for Lawrence Shankland, where would they be if they to lose him?
I don't think they will lose him. I think Lawrence Shankland needs just to buckle down, window closes, get on with it, try and start scoring goals. They've had 4 defeats, 1 draw. They've got a game against Victoria Pilsen, which I think is winnable. Win that game and then try and get some kind of, as Ali mentioned, momentum. I can't believe the start they've had.
Yeah, and as I said, Peter, I looked at the squad and I thought they're really, really strengthened. They signed, players from other SPFL clubs that you thought were good signings: Penrith, Stander, Blair Spittle. They kept Shankland. I think they've got a really, really strong squad this season. But it wasn't just that; it was pre-season as well. My friend's a Hearts supporter. Pre-season they took a couple of hammers as well, down at Fleetwood and against Tottenham. So all throughout they've been really poor. I don't think they've won a game this season. So whether that be a friendly game or a league game or a cup game. So listen, they've got really, really tough games ahead as well. They've got a big game on Thursday against Pilsen. I think if you can get through and get into the Europa League, I think that takes a wee bit of heat off the manager. But if they get put out of that as well, then the pressure will just increase on Stephen Naismith, which is incredible when you look at how well he done last season. But it's been a really, really, really dreadful start for Hearts.
Yeah, I'm going to try and keep this as decent as I possibly can, Ali, which is why I'm going to look to Tam for this next one. But Dundee United 2, St Johnstone 0, and I'm dying to know. I'm dying to know what was going through Sidibe's head when he thought, by the way, I've been sent off, so I'll just scalp this boy between the legs just to compound matters.
He's going to get. He's getting a massive ban, isn't he? He's going to. I mean, I don't know how many games he's going to get banned for.
Yeah.
And he's been a real bright spark for them as well. He's been linked to a lot of clubs, and not only that, I think the goalkeeper was at fault for both of the goals as well. They've lost the boy Mitov, who, in my opinion, kept him in the league last season.
Yeah.
The sitter, I mean, when he goes round the goalkeeper and that's the post and it comes back to the number.
Yeah. I think what I think
it's a different game altogether. If that goes in, it's a
It's a minute before half time as well.
Do you know what you do though, Tam? At that point, what you do is you turn round to the boy Sidibe and you say, "Listen, I've got my car out there. I'll just drive you home, so we don't need to get on the bus, and you can explain why you needed to punch somebody, and I don't need to take the embarrassment."
Aye.
I mean, he could have taken a touch and still put that ball in
it was a dreadful miss, and that totally changes the game. And then the goalkeeper throws the second one in, comes out for a throw in and misses the ball. So it's a poor result, a poor day for St Johnstone, but Dundee United have started the season well.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't pick between Ross County and St Johnstone. Again, it's one of those situations. I think Ross County for me are going down, and St Johnstone are going to be trying to pull off the Great Escape again.
Yeah, I would agree with both of those summations. I think Ross County have looked very poor. St Johnstone, I just think you're struggling to see where they're getting any kind of spark from. CTB, I think they'll be out for. You're thinking it was 2 yellow cards and then a red card on top of it. There could be a charge of violent conduct thrown into it. He's looking at an extensive period on the sidelines. I don't know that St Johnstone have the depth really to cope with that. Craig Levein had said that he was keen to bring in players over this week, to bring in at least 2 or 3 before the window closes, and I think he needs it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was at Easter Road at the weekend. Good game. Oh, fantastic. Loved it. Because, I mean, I think I've seen Dundee twice this season already, and they've been a joy to watch. In contrast, I don't know what I'm getting with Hibs. I really don't, because
they're good going. It's not, nothing's really changed in the last 2 seasons with Hibs. They're good going forward. They'll score goals, but at the back they lose goals, and it's not just they lose leads all the time. I'm granting that 5 minutes to go, Hibs are winning 2-1. You're just thinking Dundee will score here. I think I wasn't at the game, but I think you're probably getting that feeling amongst the supporters. We need a third goal. I don't think Hibs ever 1-0 or 2-1 up are comfortable.
But if you're 2-1 up, Tam, and you know Simon Murray's on the park.
Yeah, it's pure defending for the boy O'Hara. He gets caught wrong side, Peter.
Yep. It's
really, really poor defending. David Gray will be really livid with that, because he's just got to get right side of him and show him away for goal. He lets him turn too easy, and Simon Murray's deadly in that situation. He works hard, especially after he's seen the 2 goals that Hibs scored. Great free kick, and then the boy Bowie comes on and scores a great goal as well. I think both teams will be fine this season, but in terms of Hibs, they just cannot seem to see a lead out, cannot see a game out, and until such times that changes, Peter, they're not going to get anywhere near the top 6.
No, absolutely not. Great credit to Dundee, though. I mean, they are a good footballing team as well.
Very organised, I think, Dundee. I think you can see the structure that's there, the way they set out. I think compounded a lot of expectations last season, and where they finished and how well they done after coming straight back up. And I think they've picked up where they've left off. Yeah,
absolutely. How they sorted out at Hibs, only time will tell. Do you think they've got any leeway in the transfer market?
Hopefully for another centre half, Peter, or defender. Yeah. I think midfield to front now they've got plenty of options, but I think they need. I'm not convinced about the 2 centre halves they've brought in. I don't think they're any improvement of the ones that went out the door.
Well, I think David Gray actually shares your concerns on the mistakes that have been made in the back line.
And I think it's clear for everyone to see the areas in which we need to improve. I think that's very clear. One thing we can't keep doing is have to score 3, 4, 5 goals to win a game of football. Not shying away from that at all. It's a collective responsibility. It's not an individual in terms of just one player. It's something that we all need to be better at.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a look at the table. See exactly where your team is, and whether you think they're doing well or not. Apart from, I think Aberdeen have certainly hit the ground running and pleased the Dons fans. Anybody else there that surprised you, Tam?
Yeah, I think that Hibs and Hearts both been in the bottom 3. It's pretty surprising. Kilmarnock been bottom. There's teams who have been touted this season for top 6 all struggling. So, listen, there's a long way to go. But Dundee United, I think, have surprised me a wee bit. I didn't think they'd be up so high in the table, and Motherwell as well. But as I said, there's a long way to go in terms of the season. But I think the surprise package for me has got to be Aberdeen.
Yeah, absolutely. Bottom end, I mean, we've already highlighted Ross County and St Johnstone. I can't see past them being totally in a dogfight.
Yeah, I think Ross County are going to miss Simon Murray massively. I think that he, again, probably kept him in the league last season. His goals and then goals in the playoff against Wraith Rovers. I think he's a massive blow for Ross County to lose him, his energy, his leadership, his goals. And I think St Johnstone losing the boy Meetoff, who won every player of the year, the goalkeeper last season, is going to kill them as well. So for me, they're nailed on bottom 2.
Okay, you might agree with Tam, you might disagree. We've got Scott Allen with us on Wednesday. Ali has a one-to-one with Eric Zviachenko, talking all things football and looking ahead to the weekend and that Sunday fixture, Celtic against Rangers. We're going to be speaking to players of the past who enjoyed that fixture. You can see that feature throughout this week on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. We'll have the Women's Football Show. We'll also have the Journals. Michael Michael Grant is joining us. I couldn't think of a better time for Michael Grant to join us because, Michael, of course, you can actually be a journalist and be a football fan. And Michael's an Aberdeen fan. He's a Dons fan, but a fantastic writer. And I don't think anybody does anybody question Michael Grant on his allegiance when he's writing the way we get pelters on this site and across in Super Scoreboard and on various broadcasting television shows.
Michael would tell you that there have been aspersions cast in his direction. I don't think any of us who have any kind of social media presence who write about football escape it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think, I'm not quite sure, other than the bog standard ones, how you could actually give Michael any pelters. He's one of the nicest guys in journalism. Anyway, he's joining us on the journos on Wednesday. We've got some great one-to-ones coming up. Straight Talk will be back on the air. We've got some really good interviews. And I think on Friday it'll be the big build-up, Tam, and of course to Sunday as well. That's the build-up to this suddenly can make or break some people's life for about 3 or 4 weeks. Their mood, the whole swings. I don't like some elements of it in the aftermath of an Old Firm game, but it does formulate a picture of, I don't want to get into work, I want the manager out. That's the way it goes, isn't it?
Yeah, I think in terms of, it's a huge game. It's the biggest game in Scottish football. Celtic have obviously had the upper hand over the last few seasons in terms of winning trophies and beating Rangers, but if Rangers turn up and play really well on the day and get a result, everything can get flipped in its head. It'd just be interesting to see how many new faces are in either team come Sunday.
Yeah, that's the other thing about it. I'm trying to think, that's a feature for us for a top 5, Ali. The top 5 debutants in an Old Firm game that have actually shone in the Old Firm game. Have been absolutely superb in it. That's a good question, Ali, isn't it? People that have made their debut in an Old Firm game and actually been top drawer in it.
I was thinking about Rio Hutati, but I'm not sure if that was his debut.
It's certainly one to think about, isn't it? And get our mitts into it. I mean, I think Torrey Andre Flo had been...
Roy Keane?
Maybe a Roy Keane. Torrey Andre Flo had actually been there.
Said he was Clyde.
Maybe. So he did. I reminded them of that a couple of weeks ago, Ali, on stage. He took to it fairly well.
These crisps on the bus.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think. Can you think of a Rangers player or a Celtic player who made their debut in an Old Firm game and was a star? It's a belter of a question, Tam, isn't it? We'll get our thoughts on that throughout the week. We'll have more top 5s and top 10s, much to Ali's annoyance. I only do it now because she says it's a man's thing. I cannot believe it. Surely there's somebody out there who likes top 5s and top 10s. Tell me now. So hopefully you're enjoying the content and all the banter. And of course, over and above that, we've got some belter competitions coming up for you. We're going to be giving away lots of prizes that you can enjoy all the way through till Christmas. So if you hit that subscribe button on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel, we'll be absolutely delighted. If you download the app, you'll get all the breaking news at your fingertips. And just for the benefit of yourself, if you do download the app, in this week of all weeks, if you're a football fan, download the app, and when you get onto that app, there is a section on the app where you can go to the bottom on contact and you can actually record a message, record a video of you giving us your wisdom ahead of that big game, or indeed any of the clubs that you support. We'd love to hear your point of view on it as well. I wonder if there'll be anybody brave enough to do that, Tam, so that we can actually...
Good to see them, good to see their faces.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hiding behind the keyboard and getting his abuse.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see if anybody downloads it and then records the video. Anyway, all to look forward to this week. It's a big, big week for football. Hopefully you're going to keep it locked to PLZ Soccer. From Alison, from Tam and from myself, Peter Martin, thank you for listening and watching.